Okay, what today's session's about, it's about designing, action planning, and mind mapping your career. Okay. And what we're going to talk about then is really looking at how you plan today in terms of preparing for tomorrow in relation to fulfilling your future career ambitions, whatever they may be. And at this stage, if you're not entirely sure, that's the process that we're going to talk about as well. So if you have some ideas or if you've no ideas, you're a bit unsure, it's really about thinking about how you can now start to prep that in terms of thinking about career design, looking at the processes of career action planning, and looking how that then translates into you creating a visual representation via a mind map in terms of thinking about then what your next steps are and how you can progress your career. We have some resources and we'll put the links in the chat bar as we go through, and you can then look at those and save those then for later on. Okay. All right. So secret to career success. There is no secret to career success at the end of the day. We have an equation there and it's what we call the winning formula. Okay. So your employability, okay, it equals your qualifications, the work experience that you have. Now that work experience can be paid, it can be voluntary, it can be how you have positions of responsibilities within clubs or societies or as class rep. It's those things that allow you to develop your experience so you can think about the skills and the attributes and the qualities that you're then developing as a result of those particular experiences. We then look at the strategies, and one of the strategies is what we're going to explore today in terms of understanding career design and understanding then how that translates into you creating a visual representation through the mind map. And you'll see there that the formula you have plus work experience plus strategies, and it's multiplied by confidence. It's developing that confidence to better and articulate your experiences, your skills, your attributes, but also it's having the confidence to do the research, to begin designing your career, to start mind mapping that career. Oh, somebody just joined us there, Jonathan. Sorry, we've only gone through a couple of slides, really outlining what we're talking about. Okay, so good to see you in this session. In this session, then what we're going to cover is your ownership of that journey, having the confidence to take ownership of that journey, okay, to enhance your career prospects. We'll talk about the 4 stages of career action planning, and that's a cyclical process that can be repeated. It's not just a one-off. We look at some of the resources to enable you to better explore those options available to you with your degree program and your experiences. We look at the importance of smart goal setting, so setting specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound goals. Okay. And then we'll look at how you design your career. I'll say that one again. How you then design your career mind map. And we'll give you a couple of examples and we'll give you some links to the templates and stuff that you can download to enable you then to better do that and create that visual mind map and utilize that mind map in terms of the decision making processes and looking at the options available to you. Oh, right. Oh, it's all right. Just bounced up there in the chat bar, Donna. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Please do use the chat bar. Please put your videos on. Please put your mics on. This can be an interactive session. Okay. So when you're thinking about your student journey, okay, and let me just put the link in case you're not familiar with what I'm talking about. Oh, I'm at second year social. All right, okay, everybody's starting to come in there. Okay, let me just get a drink of water here. So within your employability portal, okay, during enrollment, you were asked to select an employability statement that best suits you, and that was broken down into 4 different categories. And these 4 different categories reflect really the career action planning cycle. in terms of where you are on that particular journey. Very good, Laura. Finally, your language and linguistics. I nearly didn't say that right, which would have been ironic. And so it allows you to, depending on where you feel you are, and when you registered or when you were enrolling and you clicked on that statement, what that did was it associated particular resources with your B number in terms of how we can best help you through that employability journey. So that the resources that are curated against that are aligned to what you had said in your statement. Yes, Beatrice, just finished up. Hard to believe you're actually finished up now. That's definitely, yeah. Time flew by on that one. So in the employability portal, depending on what you set as against where you felt you were, there were a whole range of resources. Okay, and those were kind of broken down each of the phases in terms of the exploration stage. I'm not really ready to start thinking about it, or I've no career ideas and want to explore my options. I've some ideas, but I'm not really sure how to start. So again, within the employability portal, you can look at the journey tab on the right hand side, the far right hand side, and start to investigate the resources there. And as part of the mind mapping process that we talked about, or the career action planning process, those are resources in there that you can have a look at, okay, when it comes to you beginning to think about developing your mind map. So following the exploration session, then we look at the planning session. I know what I want to do, but I'm not sure how to get there. And that's very often where our students sort of find themselves. I have an idea, I kind of know what I want to do, but how do I get there? What can help me to progress in terms of moving towards that career idea that I have? And in particular, when you think about that employability equation, then, you know, where do you get the experience that demonstrates to future graduate employers that this was the career idea that you've had and that you're working towards that career idea and gaining that relevant experience that will allow you to better develop your skills? It's okay if you're not sure and need help. Look, absolutely. That's one of the things that our students have always sort of said to us, Don, and I think that's a really important point that you've made there. They say, well, I don't really know what I want to do, so I feel I can't speak to an employability advisor because I really don't know what I want to do. And that's the important time to speak to an employability advisor, to begin to start to explore those options, creating that career action plan, looking at developing that mind map so that you can then begin to start to progress and get that work experience and make those decisions in relation to how you spend your time, which of course is a finite resource, as we know. So you have the explore, you have the plan, and then you have the action section, act section. Okay. So possibly at that stage where you're ready to start applying for jobs or postgraduate study, maybe kind of looking at applying for placements and stuff at the minute for your third year diploma and professional program. So again, the journey relates to you as an individual because it is your journey and it's your career and it's you who are the driving force behind that career. It's not about letting your career happen by chance. And there are a whole range of resources and activities within the sections that can support you if you are actively seeking work experience, placement, an internship, or graduate opportunities, some of the graduate management type programs. Okay, so you have, for example, information in terms of recruitment events. All right, Andy, maybe. Okay, very good. All right, yes, Don. Uh, the recruitment fairs and events that are running, we run our own in-house ones within Ulster University, but the likes of Target Jobs, Prospects, and Grad Ireland also run large-scale employer graduate events, placement fairs, that kind of thing. So it's important that you're aware of where the opportunities are that potentially you might actually be applying to. And again, if you've been applying for opportunities but haven't been successful, book an appointment, and we'll talk about the appointments at the end of this presentation and how you book an appointment and who the employability advisors are. to begin to have that conversation to say, look, I know what I want to apply for and I know where I want to be applying to it. But it really then is a case of you thinking about, well, what do I need to do to up my game here? Why am I not being successful in relation to the applications? Is it an issue with my CV? Is it an issue with my application form? Is there something I can do to better prepare for interviews? Thank you, Donna. Brilliant, excellent. Uh, and again, when you're looking and thinking about applying for opportunities, the Handshake platform or career management system that you've booked to these events through, those are where the graduate opportunities, placement opportunities, opportunities to work on campus through the likes of the UU temps. So those are all there to assist you and to help you become aware of those opportunities that you might wish to apply for. And within that section as well, in terms of thinking about how you apply, we have the likes of the VMOC, which is the CV builder, and it's an artificially intelligent, algorithmically driven system that will allow you to upload your CV. It will advise you of where you need to be thinking about making changes. But I will say it's a machine at the end of the day, and it doesn't have it's good to do prior to booking an appointment with one of the employability advisors who will sit down with you, look at the particular role you're applying for, and look at how you better tailor that CV to that particular opportunity, or if you're completing an application form, or if you're prepping for interview. So the the employability advisors, they have a wealth of experience in this. And it's about having that confidence to walk in through the door or to book that appointment and have a virtual session with them to say, look, this is where I am, but this is where I want to be. How do we join the dots that, or how do we join the lines there, really, in terms of thinking about that sort of mind mapping? And again, if you're interested in working for yourself, there are resources in there in terms of the whole enterprise and entrepreneurship side of things. Okay, yep. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Don. I was about to mention the Ab Integro, the Interview 360. That again is an artificially intelligent platform, interviewing platform, where you can go on. There's a whole bank of questions there in specific to different sectors, but there's also the kind of generic graduate management program type of questions. And there tend to be criterion and behavioral based questions where you get some practice in terms of thinking about, preparing for an interview, and you can get the video record yourself. It will provide you with that AI feedback. So that there are things that you can be doing on your own, in your own time, through the resources available in the employability portal that you can have a look at. But again, I would always advise booking an appointment with one of the employability advisors so that you can have a conversation. Okay, so that's just a wee bit about your employability journey. You may not have remembered which box you ticked when you were enrolling, but a lot of the information that's curated is aligned to your B number, and that even may have changed. So you can always kind of look, where you were when you first enrolled back in 21 for academic year 21-22. That may well have changed. You may have gone from the kind of, the initial stages of exploring or planning or acting, and now then you can look at the other resources that are available in there too. So let's talk about career planning then. The first step in career planning involves gathering information about you to help you make decisions about your career. It's about your personality. And there are a whole range of, different careers theories that understand the importance of values, strengths, traits, interests when it comes to making those kind of career decisions. And again, it helps you to become much more aware of that interrelationship between yourself and your occupational choice. So, the desired lifestyle that you want to have, for example. And again, there are a whole range of available free resources via the Employability and Careers portal. There are online assessments to determine your temperament, style, and related occupations. There are everything in terms of workshops, in terms of exploring your CV and preparation, in terms of doing that. And again, we do have the advice and guidance sessions that you can certainly, have a conversation with one of the EAs in terms of thinking about who you are and why you're considering a particular career in a particular area. Okay. There's a very good tool on the Prospects website. I thought I had the link there. Give me just 1 second. Oh, it's in the links. The link's actually there itself. Okay, so you can click on it. I will just put it in for you in the chat bar. And this is a really interesting tool that you can use, particularly if you're kind of struggling in terms of thinking about, well, what kind of jobs would suit me? Even if you've started to investigate different roles in different sectors, I'm a firm believer in sort of you can't be what you can't see at the end of the day, and it's part of that exploration in terms of looking at the skills, your motivations, your desires, and I know it's a bit of a stretch here. It says that sort of a career that's perfect for you. But this is about the kind of ideation stage, when you're starting to think about what those potential options are. And this is a nice way, even in terms of thinking about developing your mind map, in terms of knowing that you've done some investigation and that you have an understanding. Oh, very good, Donna. Okay, yep. Uh, it's a nice way of kind of looking at seeing that interrelationship. Now there's Holland's theory of career choice and Bandura's social cognitive theory and super self concept theory and Crumble's planned happenstance theory, and these are kind of self determination theories as well. Now, I don't know how much you want to go into this here, but if you kind of just Google self determination theory, it talks about all the different factors that impact on people's abilities to self determine in terms of their motivations and their goals and their aspirations. So, if it's something that you want to kind of go into in a wee bit more depth, self determination theories is a really good theory to kind of have a look at in terms of better understanding the whole process in relation to it. And I mentioned something there that I firmly believe in. It's you can't be what you can't see. So this is about starting to kind of looking at sort of preparing and opportunity. So we talked a wee bit about personality. We now want to look at investigating the possibilities. And you know, the possibilities, some will say, are boundless or endless at the end of the day, but there will be factors which may impact on things being a reality, a possibility in reality or not. So again, these are the ways that you start to think about, who you are, what are the potential options out there. And I suppose one of the big things really that people sort of look at are, well, what are the options with my degree? And you'll see there in the prospects website, they have a whole range, everything. I believe it's from accounting to zoology, and you can begin to start investigating those options with your actual degree program. It will give you a list of options that are directly related to your degree, and then it will give you a whole range of options that are indirectly related to your degree. So if you click on that link that I've put in the sidebar, if you have a couple of screens open and just scroll down, it will say, for example, biology. We look at the biology one. And what it'll do then, it will give you a list of job options directly related to your degree, everything from a biotechnologist, to a pharmacologist, a nature conservation officer, a nanotechnologist, a soil scientist, laboratory technician, secondary school teacher, all of those things directly related to your degree. But you will also see then that it will talk about the skills and the roles and the responsibilities in terms of, well, what does that actually involve? It provides you with information in relation to the qualifications that you need. Sometimes it might well be postgraduate study that you're looking at, for example. I'll take school teacher, where you'll have to go and you'll do your qualified teacher status qualification through Teach First or the PGCE route. So there are a number of routes, and this is where the importance of starting to thinking about mind mapping, where you're gathering the information that you need to allow you to better mind map how you're going to design your career. So again, within that options with your degree, it talks about the work experience. It provides you then with some links there in terms of where potential jobs are offered, how you could potentially get into it. It talks about the whole range of skills that you need as well, so that you can better begin to understand and articulate those skills requirement and how you then have developed it. So there's a whole range in there. And again, if you don't find what you're looking for in there, do sit down and have a word with one of the employability advisors. Okay, yep, excellent, Donna. Absolutely. It does give that information, and it provides you, and when we start to look at the mind map, you'll see how you can create a better visual representation of the potential pathways and demonstrate your understanding of that by utilizing the likes of the resources that I've just mentioned there in relation to the likes of the prospects. What can I do with my degree? The prospects, career planner, job, be the match. So we talked about the personality and the possibilities. So that's beginning to look at understanding who you are, how that fits with what it is that potentially you might do. And we then begin to look at the planning stage in terms of getting focused in relation to beginning to make decisions, because that's ultimately what happens. I'm kind of doing a visual representation of funneling. You've gone from your GCSEs to your A levels, your intercert, your leaving cert, or if you went down the FE route, and that's about focusing and channeling your ideas, or funneling your ideas down to becoming more focused on what actual career you want to do, rather than thinking about, well, what am I interested in studying, for example. And now I appreciate we have a range of people here on the session today, and some may have very fixed ideas. Some of you may not have any idea at all. So it really does depend on what stage you are. And when we look further on through these slides, you'll see that this is a cyclical process. So it is. And it's something that you can continue to do, whether your first year, second year, final year, or as you actually then begin to progress your career as well. And this is about looking at beginning to make the decisions, setting those goals, and creating that action plan. And that action plan then can be within your mind map in terms of thinking about the ideas that you have and what actions you need to take in terms of better understanding what it is that you need to do in terms of taking action. So that moves very nicely on in terms of taking action to actually achieve your career goals. So we talked about the personality, we talked about the possibilities, we talked about planning, and now this is when you now need to begin to think about being proactive. And I appreciate that that's easier said than done sometimes, but it's about that continuous perpetual motion in terms of moving forward, understanding what your goals are, thinking about then the variety of methods that you can do in terms of thinking about what you will have to do in terms of reaching that goal. And again, when we move on to the mind mapping session in this, that allows you to kind of think, right, what action points do I need to take? Oh, very good. Yes, Donna, absolutely. Do please let us know in the chat what stage you are in terms of where you are in relation to your career goal. How proactive are you? And it's important that you're honest with yourself here in terms of thinking about how proactive are you? Are you, spending time and effort, setting time aside in your day to think, right, I'm going to spend 45 minutes, an hour here thinking about what it is that I need to do, and thinking about beginning to draw out that mind map so that you have that visual representation. So again, it's about that gaining experience, and I refer you back to the original equation. The qualification is a given almost in terms of your undergraduate degree program. Okay, that's why it comes first. That's why it takes primacy within that equation. But it's then about thinking about that experience now, whether it's work experience or voluntary experience. to allow you, as I said, to get a better feel for what the role might actually be like, which can then impact upon your decision making when you're thinking about the planning. Again, the job search tools that we've kind of talked about in relation to, for example, our Handshake platform, first and foremost, then looking at the likes of the Grad Ireland, the Target Jobs, Milkground, all of those various other sites that target graduates and undergraduates in terms of placement opportunities and graduate opportunities. And again, the connecting with employers takes me back to what I said. I mean, I know we have a number of sessions on this week that are specifically targeted in their focus in relation to connecting with employers so that you can have a conversation, you can ask questions, you can become informed in order to better make those decisions. We will also have the careers fairs running again, careers and placements fairs running again. We haven't got a definitive date yet, but I know we're aiming for around the October time. But there are other things happening that will allow you to connect with employers. And again, think about even the likes of your LinkedIn profile. Beatrice, I know what I want to do, and I'm trying to gain experience right now since it's not directly in my area. The struggle I have right now is with defining what experience I should try to obtain next and how to do it. Okay. All right, very good. Well, that's a perfect, that's a question to sit down with the employability advisor and spend that half an hour, 45 minutes on a one-to-one, really looking because you have an idea clearly of where you want to go. You know where you are now, and it's about joining up those dots. And again, it's important, even if you're thinking about booking an appointment with the employability advisor, even at that stage, if you have a rough mind map, then that's something that you look at. Yes, Donna, sorry, back to Beatrice, have that rough mind map, bring it in. It can be the foundations for the start of a conversation. Session running today, 12 to 1, three different employers presenting. Excellent. And I'm sure that's on the events within Handshake if you haven't already booked it. So the four stages really are looking at yourself, the personality, the possibilities, then the planning stage, and then being proactive. And it's really important that you kind of are proactive. And even as part of that being proactive, the development of your mind map shows that you're being proactive in terms of focusing on your career. And it's about those other three previous stages in relation to understanding who you are, looking at the possibilities, looking at the planning, and then thinking about what we talked about in terms of those SMART goals. Okay. And this is an ongoing process. Okay. That's why the big arrows at their side. Because as you maybe explore your options, you might want to go back then to the previous stage in terms of thinking, well, is this something that interests me? Is this playing to my strengths and my ambitions? And in terms of then maybe making a decision that it's not, it's then maybe about exploring other options. So it's not that you have to constantly go round. You can take a step back or two steps back, but work through the cycle in terms of thinking about what it is you need to do in terms of the action then that you need to take. Has anybody any questions on that section that I've kind of gone through now before I move into the kind of exploring mind mapping? You can put a yes or no in the chat bar. I'll even take a smiley face. Okay, all right. Well, without further ado, no, no problem. Excellent. Okay, thank you. Oh, cheers, Laura. I like an emoji. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now really is mind mapping and exploring those mind maps and in terms of how we create it and thinking about how we develop it. You can create mind maps for everything, but we're really sort of focusing on that kind of designing your career, thinking about career action planning, how you then progress your career. And it's really just a graphical way to represent. It's a nice visual thinking tool to help structure the information so that you can better analyze it, synthesize it, and thinking then about generating new options. Because as you go through the career action planning process, you will discover that there are options that you've maybe never heard of before or never considered. And as you begin to better explore them, then you can take a branch off your original mind mapping idea and look at that and stick a big question mark in it and put an action point beside it to further explore. And the mind map can develop as you progress and you do this, okay? And again, we can talk about radiant thinking. Okay, it's really about sort of looking at the use of colors and that non-linear structure to generate ideas, to think about, well, what is it I want to do? Why is it that I want to do this? How am I going to do it? What do I need to do next? It's the who, why, what, where, when, and how, really. And again, when you have that nice visual representation in terms of the colors that you can use, then yes, Donna, absolutely. I think in a nutshell, that's exactly what I'm saying. It is about being creative, and it encourages you to do the research. It encourages you to do the career action planning to allow you to then better visualize and create that visual representation. But even by writing it down, it allows you to better kind of recall that information as well, so that you have a range of smart goals aligned to particular strands within your mind map. Okay, so how do we design a mind map? Okay, some of the points that we'll talk about here is I always suggest people get a big art pad page, like an A2 page, rather than a small A4 page. If it's the first time you've ever kind of thought about mind mapping and doing this exercise, get as big a page as is humanly possible, lay down on the floor, have your laptop beside you in terms of doing the research. So start in the center of page. Okay, that gives you the room to spread out, and you will begin to spread out as different branches come off the different mind maps, and have nice colors there. Enjoy it, begin to enjoy it. Think about the creativity here in terms of that process that Donna mentioned. It is really about you being creative, and there's nothing you don't leave anything out. If you think it, get it down on the paper. If it's a tangent off from some line, you'll see there, and we'll look at some concrete examples of mind maps that other people have created. And it allows you then to kind of just go off in your own tangents and go down those roads or those branches within that map itself. We'll stick with roads. I kind of like mine trees, but mine maps where we have roads coming off, you know explore those roads, go down those roads, look at taking those roads to their obvious conclusion in terms of their endpoint, so that you do better understand what the options are and what actions that you need to be taking. Okay, so position your main center theme in the center, connect your second, third level themes to the first and second, and connecting those themes will help you to visualize and understand that career path more easily. Okay, don't write war and peace. Okay, one or two key words per line. Okay, and again, even if you need to have a key down in the bottom right hand corner, like any map, if you're writing down, a particular word and you're thinking, right, what do I mean by that? Even if it just allows you to write three or four more words within a key, but keep them off the actual mind map itself so that you can refer to that key later if you're unsure as to what you meant by that one word. Certainly think about that in terms of doing it. So it's literally one or two words, the things that spring to mind. And if you think about the career action plan in terms of some of those words within that circle, that can kind of get the juices going a wee bit if you're struggling in terms of how you start. Okay. Is there a right way or wrong way? No, not really. There's a template, and I'll give you some of the links to the templates. So there isn't really a right or wrong way, Donna. It's your map at the end of the day. It can be as bright, it can be as big, it can be as bold as you want it to be. It's about you understanding the process, okay, and where you are on that map and where you might want to go within that map. Which roads are you particularly thinking about going down? So there are certainly certain areas, and there's a template and there's a bit of a pro forma, and it's really, I suppose, what the next slide potentially is what you were referring to in is there a way. So again, when you look at the career action planning cycle, you will see that it's replicated here to a certain extent in terms of thinking about your skills, your knowledge, your interests. And again, the opportunities is the big one, because by looking at those opportunities, it will allow you then to avail of those opportunities. And again, I'll go back to, I'll certainly go back to saying what I said right at the start of this. You can't be what you can't see. If you don't know that a certain occupation exists or a particular role within a particular sector, how can you ever aspire to be that? How can you ever put that on your journey planner in terms of that being a potential destination if you're not aware of it? So this is what this allows you to do. It allows you to become much more aware of the opportunities available to you, and these can be opportunities in terms of, going to the likes of events that are happening this week in terms of the Future You Week, connecting with those employers, looking at the skills, attributes, and qualities that are required in a particular role. Okay, so yeah, you can't be what you can't see. It is true. It's a very, very old adage, and this is why the importance of career action planning is there, so that you do become aware of those opportunities, those roles, it's part of the occupational research or the labor market intelligence research. Because what we also know is rules change, new rules are created, other rules become obsolete. So it's about also having that up to date information as well. Okay. And again, when we think about, the likes of achievements, think about the whole range of achievements. That's why we have the kind of, hobbies, interests, and achievements within the CV. It's about reminding yourself sometimes of as just how good you are, that how hard you have worked in terms of developing your career. Now, we know that 96, 97% of students come to university to further develop their career, but they then spend very little time career action planning or mind mapping their career. So it's about joining that ambition with the academic knowledge to that role that you potentially want to look at. And again, here's one in terms of thinking about your own mind map. There may well be barriers in terms of the expenses, opportunities, location, of where particular roles and stuff are. But when you identify those barriers, you can then begin to think on your mind map in terms of, well, how do I create solutions, or how do I negate those barriers or minimize those barriers? And one of the things that says there in the barriers is the money. So I'm thinking about postgraduate study. How do I finance that postgraduate study? Are there postgraduate loans available? Okay, Donna, look, no, brilliant. Thank you very much, Donna. Much, much, much appreciated. Uh, I see you put the link in. I have the link on my last slide, but I'll certainly remind people of the other things that are happening. Okay. Cheers, Donna. Thank you. Take care. So, when we're looking at those barriers that I mentioned, this again is about thinking about the opportunities in terms of, so financial, can I get a postgraduate student loan? What are the cost of the fees? How do they have to be paid? And this is information that better allows you to make well-informed decisions. So I've worked with students before, and Donna's worked with the students before in terms of thinking about mind mapping. So again, this is the beginnings of a mind map, okay, where an individual, and again, I love the colors, thinks, they're doing a biomedical science degree. And with that degree program, like a lot of undergraduate degree programs, it keeps a very broad range of options open to you. And what she has done here is looked at some of those options and thinking about what that role actually involves. Now, this was an individual who went on to do the postgraduate qualification in the Physician Associates program, the Masters in Physician Associates. Sorry, excuse me, and began to kind of look at what she would be doing as a result of that. And one of the big things that we talked about was her working with patients, and that was something that she really, really wanted to do. Yes, she could have went on to do pathology and worked in a lab within a hospital, but there was no kind of direct patient contact. And when we looked at this and kind of started to further develop it, it was, thinking about, well, what skills and attributes and qualities are required in order to work professionally within the health service in terms of interacting with patients. And that then allowed this individual to start to think about the skills that she developed and the work experience that potentially she then might have needed in relation to gaining that experience, so it would bolster her application to her postgraduate study. So again, look, it doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be kind of perfect, okay? But it's about beginning to do it so that each of those roads then can progress out. And then, for example, where she's mind mapped from the biomedical science degree, she then mind mapped the physician associates one. And that can sometimes create a different map as well. Again, some people, can kind of get very technical and, do it. I kind of sort of like to just do it freehand, okay, so that you're not being constrained by your ability to use the actual IT systems. But then again, when you're looking at the likes of this one, they've clearly spent a bit of time actually looking at the different kind of rule routes and rules in relation to it. So, uh, each of these is kind of built off, and it's all very linear and it's all very nice, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, quite exactly this way. But it's good she's put herself at the center of it. That's the important thing. And again, this was an international travel and tourism student. And again, the whole range of different occupations that she could potentially go into that, and began looking at the events management side of things, education, looking at kind of, becoming, hotel reception manager, looking at the hospitality. And again, starting to think about looking at what she has done previously and potentially how that can impact in terms of her skills development and the attributes that she has developed over a period of time. I quite like that one, in that it's very kind of IT linear orientated, but it's entirely up to you what way you kind of decide you're going to create your own mind map. And as I said, I will certainly be giving you, there are a number of templates, and I'll give you the links through there. Again, here's one slightly different. The roads are in there, and the highways and the byways are in there as well. And it's starting to look then, for our textile and fashion student, looking at those kind of different sort of areas where potentially, she's three on the one side, four on the other side, and looking at where those potentially can lead to. So again, there's a whole range of different ways you can decide. That's, you know, it's entirely up to you at the end of the day. This is your mind map. This is about your thinking and the potential progression routes that you might like to go down to. So again, we have one slightly differently then in terms of, and I'm sorry, but when this is pulled over, I appreciate there's some of the things on this that you can't read. When it's converted in order to share within the collaborate, it sometimes kind of messes up the PowerPoint slide a wee bit. But there were a number of areas then that she was looking at in terms of counseling, psychology, becoming a life coach, thinking about becoming a cognitive therapist, and looking at kind of what the different salaries are, and looking at the experience required, and looking at, particular websites, for example, that she can utilize to further research options and looking at making applications as well. So again, they were thinking about the kind of, a wide range of places that could be based in work, thinking about, well, am I geographically mobile? Can I work self-employed? Do I have to work for the NHS, or there private organizations that potentially you could work for? So again, some nice visual representations going on, but it's what works for you at the end of the day. So within this slide, then there are a number of mind mapping. There's software that you can use, okay, and make sure it's free, but okay. I'll put a few of them here, just so you have them. If you want to copy and paste them out of the chat bar, even, just into a Word document, And this, if you happen to use Apple, then this one's probably a better one for yourself. Okay, so there are a whole range of ones that you can use, and it's nice to maybe have a look at them in terms of thinking about what it is that you need to include. But again, I think freehand works perfectly well. It's your mind map. It allows you to kind of choose your colors, be creative, utilize the colors to mean different things as well. Okay. So I mentioned there about the employability advisors. There are several ways that they can assist you, aid and abet you to reach that potential. As you progress through your undergraduate degree program, as you progress out the other side, and the employability and career service are there for you even after you graduate. So as an alumni of Ulster University, having graduated from Ulster, you can always come back to us. Okay, you can always come back to us and say, well, look, I tried this for a year and it didn't work. I'm kind of rethinking my career. Can I come in and sit down and have a conversation? And the simple answer there to that is absolutely. Of course you can. So again, within Handshake, you'll see the appointments tab. Within the employability portal, you'll see the appointments tab. So there's no reason not to engage with us at the end of the day. We have several employability advisors. We have Stella and Laura on the Belfast Jordanstown campus. We have Shauna and Eilish. Eilish is currently on maternity leave, so we have Hannah has stepped in for her at the minute. So we have the two there. And we have Donna, who was on the call earlier, and Gail. Okay, so it is, hashtag stay connected with the employability team. Absolutely. Now, Donna mentioned also that there are a whole range of further events this week. Okay, I will just put the link in again in case anybody has missed it. It's away in the chat bar there. And there's a whole range. There are several events. Obviously, there are more happening today. But again, you can view all of the events that are happening. And again, get yourself registered, because it'll give you a bit more information in terms of the likes of the Careers Cafe running today. We have the Employer Insight. So I'm about to finish up to let anybody go to that. I will take any questions if people have them. I just wanted to briefly mention the Assured Skills Academies. Okay, so if you're unemployed or underemployed, okay, it's a pre-training employment that to help you in terms of looking at skills particular companies are wanting, and you will get a job interview at the end of the academy. So the Assured Skills Academies are now running. They're now taking applications, and that it's something that I wanted to bring to your attention as a potential opportunity. And again, this is the importance of engaging with these types of things. I don't know if how many of you have heard of the Assured Skills Academy, but it's clearly an opportunity that you might want to think about considering. Okay. And then finally, last but not least, okay, we have an online survey. It's the Graduate Exit Survey. And I would just appreciate, not now, I appreciate the other things starting in the next 5 minutes or so. But if you go on to the ulster.onlinesurveys.ac.uk, you'll find that there are several surveys, but it's the Ulster Graduate Exit Survey of 2022. And if you could please just take 5 minutes, okay, to kind of fill it out. It allows us to kind of better understand the experience that you've had, and it allows us then to kind of target different sessions. It allows us to create bespoke sessions to make sure that the students are actually getting what they want and what they need and what they require to enable them then to progress. Okay, so I just want to leave you then on the slide. Oh, there we go on that one. Folks, we've got about 2, 3, 4 minutes for any questions that anybody might have. If you either want to stick your camera and your mic on, or if you want to put them in the chat bar, that would do. Either or way suits me. So Sarah, Laura, Jonathan, Emma. Thank you very much, Laura. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Okay, look, I appreciate we went through all of that very quickly. It was a 15-minute session. The recordings will be made available, okay, if you want to sit down and you want to go through it again. But again, the major takeaways are, by planning and career action planning and mind mapping, you're better able to design your own journey at the end of the day.